Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another video for Infinite Lagrange. This video has been sponsored by NetEase, and if you're concerned as what that means in regards to the trustworthiness of my content, then in the description below I've put a link to my Discord. There is a public release on there that details all the information that you'll need to know in regards to this sponsorship. Now, if you enjoy this video, please let me know by hitting like on it, sub to the channel for all things Infinite Lagrange, and make sure to ding that notification bell and select all notifications. YouTube has been doing terribly recently with actually notifying people of new gaming YouTubers' content. The only way to fight back against that is with a notification bell ding and all notifications. Seriously guys, it really does help, and thank you to everyone who spends that extra second in order to do so. In today's video, we're going to be having a look at the Anderson and the SC002. Basically, we're going to be looking at jamming aircraft, because there's a lot of misinformation going on around these at the moment. Certain YouTubers have dismissed them in the past, and I don't get why, because you can actually stop and have a look at the data on this, and it is clear how these work, and there just seems to be a lot of misunderstanding from folks who don't seem to have actually tried this and checked it out. Anyway, so what are we actually talking about? You'll notice I'm between servers at the moment, so there are a lot of upgrade dots around here for the various different ships that are obviously going to be upgraded before we go into the new server. Well, I'm talking about things like here the generic SC002, the Balancer Anderson SC020, that kind of thing here. These are jamming aircraft. The SC002 advertises itself as a Quantum Scout. The Balancer Anderson, again, it puts itself down as a Scout. Obviously, scouting, you might think, why would aircraft be scouting in Infinite Lagrange? Because you can't send them off on their own anyway. You need to launch them from an aircraft carrier of sorts. So how would you actually go about doing that and using them as a scout? Well, the name Scout is a bit misleading. These are jamming aircraft, and we'll start by having a look at the SC002, which is a generic blueprint and actually fairly readily available. I know a lot of people who have managed to find this one, and again, a lot of people look at it and go, well, it's terrible. Why on earth would I fly one of these? Yeah, it's got very low firepower, both for anti-ship and anti-air, and it doesn't scale all that well. I mean, that 234 down there is obviously without any tech points in there. And if we have a look at the airborne cannon system, you'll see that if we even look at the enhancements here, there's just not that much goes on. 10% damage increase there for 3 skill points, 3 enhancement points, sorry. Increases all cannon damage by 10%, weapon system cooldown by 15%, and hit rate against fighters and corvettes. It's really not that great when you math this out. Even as you spread it out across the entire squadron, the damage that an SC002 Quantum Scout does is abysmal. But that's missing the entire point, which is their electronic recon system. If we actually open up the information here, it will say it's an airborne weapon jamming system capable of transmitting electronic interference to the enemy ship's primary weapon system, greatly reducing the chance of being hit. Now, it's a little bit misleading, and I think this has led certain other Infinite Lagrange YouTubers to look at this and just dismiss them offhand, because it reduces the chance of being hit, says the description. So that means it's only against the Quantum Scout, right? No, not at all. It's the entire weapon system gets affected. So let's jump out of the SC002 Quantum Scout for a moment and scroll up to one of my favourite cruisers out there, the Jupiter Industries IO Assault Ion Cannon Cruiser. Now yeah, this does have 3 weapon systems. We've got the Vigan Ion Cannon System, the Integrated Battery System, and the generic Missile Launching System. But you know as well as I do that it is the Vigan Dual-Fire Ion Cannon that carries all of this ship's DPM. And this is the primary weapon system. It is designated as the primary weapon system here when you go to upgrade it, which you can check by the fact that it's got that M there next to where it says Vigan Ion Cannon System. Now, if an SC002 attacks this particular ship, it will disable that ion cannon, leaving the IO with just its rapid-fire cannon battery, which is not particularly damaging, and the same there with its anti-ship missile array. You have absolutely neutered the IO's ability to actually deal damage to enemy ships. That is how the SC002 works. It's the same with the Balancer Anderson, and I believe there are a couple of other aircraft types as well that do this jamming, but I don't remember them offhand. But look for things like airborne jamming systems. Here it is on the Balancer Anderson SC020. Same thing, an airborne weapon jamming system capable of transmitting electronic interference to the enemy ship's primary weapon system, greatly reducing the chance of being hit. It's not just hits to the Balancer Anderson or the SC002 Quantum Scout or whatever. it is to anything that that weapon system is firing at, and that is huge. I've taken to adding these recently. Since I added the Balancer Anderson, I've actually loaded up a Predator. If I go up to my cruisers here, because you know me, I like to fly thematic fleets. So if I'm using a Predator, which is an aircraft cruiser, it launches aircraft, not corvettes, for the Antonius Consortium. Obviously the Balancer Anderson is an Antonius Consortium aircraft. I like to put these in here. And when I did that at the end of the last server, oh my goodness, I was absolutely wrecking. I would go into battle with the Predator loaded out with the Balancer Andersons, and I went into battle with them using things like my other favourites, the Newlands, which wasn't overly thematic, but I wanted to do it for science, you know? And the Newlands were obviously very good. You know how much I love my Newlands. They do a lot of damage. They are experts at ripping apart enemy weapon systems, but when I put the Balancer Andersons on, I was taking a lot less damage from whatever ship they were attacking. And you can try this yourself. Go out into battle with Balancer Andersons or SC002 Quantum Scouts or whatever. Notice which ship that they are actually attacking. Look in battle, you know, actually test it, watch which ships they're attacking, and then at the end of that battle, have a look at how much damage those enemy ships actually did. Not just to the Quantum Scouts, but to everything that they were firing at. It is massively reduced, because what it does is it massively messes with your enemy ship's ability to hit. And again, if we're looking at something like the IO that has that one particular main weapon system, then it just wrecks it. It absolutely neuters the IO. If we look at the Callisto again here, we've got two weapon systems. We've got the Eternal Polaris large projectile launching system and the generic battery. Now, of the 15,050 DPM, if we go into the Eternal Polaris, you'll see that 14,000 of that is straight in that cluster torpedo. So if you disarm that cluster torpedo and stop it actually hitting, then you're left with about 10,000 damage, which is pathetic. It's nothing. It's not even 10,000, it's 1,000 DPM. That's nothing for a cruiser of this size. And it's not just against the aircraft. I know I keep repeating that, but I've seen that parroted so many times. I've had people in my comment section and on my Discord saying, oh, but I've been told that the Balancer Anderson and the SC002, the weapon system that they jam only affects the hit rate against that particular fighter, and that is categorically untrue, and it is so simple to test this and actually see it. Again, go out there with a ship using standard fighters and see how well it does. Then go out there with the Balancer Andersons or the SC002s and watch how the ship that they're targeting does in the end of battle reports. I don't have any to hand, annoyingly, but trust me, you can try this yourself. Have a look at that data and you will see that these are incredible little aircraft. Now, of course, when I'm using them, the first thing that I'm going to do, if we have a look at the SC002s again, is when it comes to upgrading these, I'm not going to bother with the airborne cannon system or the propulsion system or the armor system. I mean, you know, you could go for things like ship evasion, that's always quite nice, and there are some nice little tricks up its sleeve in the electronic jamming system as well. If we go right the way to the end here, you'll see that these both have, same with the Anderson, dodge damage. When attacked by enemy aircraft, it gives up its target and retreats to the carrier for 40 seconds, which just helps it survive. If you find you're losing them a lot, it's worth spending the 8 enhancement points to get that done. But otherwise, I go for jamming duration and the weapon system cooldown to keep that going as best as possible. The target allocation doesn't seem to be much, but if you are going to pump in additional, if you haven't got many aircraft and you keep getting aircraft upgrades, for example, yeah, having enhanced evasion and the reduced chance of being hit by guided weapons or being hit by direct fire weapons is always pretty nice. It helps keep the ship a little bit more alive. But ultimately, lean into the strengths. The fact is that these ships are using those jamming systems, so lean into that. And when it comes to a ship to launch it from, like again if we go back up to the Predator, or indeed the KCCPV 2.0, the aircraft variant of that, then when you have a look at these, obviously the aircraft landing system is what we're going to be using, you know, what we're going to be looking to enhance, and things like target lock-on speed and return to battle cooldown are very, very useful if you're going to be launching any of these jamming ships. Hit rate does seem to play an effect as well. The actual jamming system does seem to use hit math in order to allocate the hits. However, steer clear of any of the damage ones. There is no point going for damage upgrades on a Predator that is going to be launching Balancer Andersons or SC-002 Quantum Scouts, because they're not going to be doing damage. You want to be focusing on that whole bit of them avoiding incoming fire and them doing their jamming. So return to battle and lock on speed are a lot better things to go for. Really lean heavily into that jamming aspect, and these ships do some incredible things out there on the battlefield. Anyway, I am going to end things there. Do let me know how you get on with these. Try it. Get out there. Give them a go. I'm loving the Balancer Anderson since I had them. I've tried the SC-002, but my problem is that requires me to use generic ships, so I'd be using the KCCPV, and I just don't tend to run generic fleets. That's me personally. I'm not saying the SC-002 are bad. They're not. They're fantastic. And putting a KCCPV 2.0 aircraft carrier as a cruiser is a great way of doing it. I'm an idiot, and I go for these heavily themed fleets where every ship is from either Jupiter Industries or Antonius Consortium, which means I don't tend to have enough points left over to do a generic fleet. So I tend to just go for the Balancer Andersons and the Predators because they fit my theming. But seriously, give these a go. These are excellent little fighters that I think a lot of people dismiss out of hand because they don't do damage. And yeah, you can look at DPM stats and be like, oh, well, this is just doing better DPM. Yeah, but you know what doesn't do any DPM at all? Dead ships. And if your ships are all dead because they're being absolutely obliterated by enemy cruisers or enemy firepower, then throwing in some Quantum Scouts or Balancer Andersons is an excellent way just to make sure that your fleet is a bit more survivable. It keeps your tanks alive a lot longer, and if you stay alive longer, you deal more damage over that period of the battle, and well, you just wear down by a war of attrition. There are two ways you can survive a battle: kill everyone faster, or just outlive them, and these are going to help you outlive your target. Let me know how you get on with these, folks. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I am moving into a new server, so I'm looking forward to seeing what that's all about, because the Phase 3 servers look really, really interesting, and I will, of course, have some content out about that soon. I do also apologise if you can hear a fan or something in the background. Obviously, here in Zimbabwe, the heat currently for October and November is through the roof. It's anywhere between 38 and 44 at the moment, which is just horrific. That's degrees Celsius if you're in the States and still using Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's ridiculously hot, and I can't afford to record without a fan on, or I will die. Anyway, folks, thank you for watching this one right the way to the end. Happy sailing, and see you in Infinite Lagrange.